W8VPV. Repeater. Net.
purposes of this evening's presentation of Newsline, I will be using the club call Whiskey 8 Victor Papa. Without further ado, this is Amateur Radio Newsline.
The following is a UST. The ARRL provides details about the recent cyber attack. NASA discovers a possible new factor causing radio signal disruptions. And a tribute to the Apollo 11 mission promises hams the moon. All this and more as Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2438 comes your way right now. From around the world, this is Newsline, Amateur Radio's first independent on-the-air news and bulletin service. Now reporting from Charleston, West Virginia, here's Jim Dameron in a TMW. Our top story this week revisits the security breach at ARRL headquarters this past spring. The ARRL has provided a public official in New England with more details about what happened, and Andy Morrison, K9AWM, shares them with us now.
In a letter that appears on the Attorney General's website for the state of Maine, the ARRL has acknowledged that the attack on the league's computer system this past spring was accomplished through the use of sophisticated ransomware that gained access to the personal and confidential data of as many as 150 of its employees. The letter said the ransomware was deployed by an unauthorized third party, which the letter did not identify. The data breach was described as having left the league's computer system encrypted. The message from League CEO David Minster, NA2AA, appears as a downloadable file on the Attorney General's website. The website lists July 1st as the date of the CEO's letter. His letter recaps the hacking incident that occurred in mid-May, noting that the league took its affected systems offline, secured its network, and called in forensic specialists. Although the ARRL does not store personal or credit card data from league members, the CEO acknowledged that staffers' personal information, including their social security numbers, may have been exposed, saying that, quote, data security is one of our highest priorities, end quote. The letter offered employees 24 months of identity monitoring services at no charge. The league assured employees, however, that there was no evidence so far that any of their personal data has been misused. This is Andy Morrison, K9AWM.
The FCC has charged 13 landlords in the New York City area in connection with illegal radio broadcasting. Cell MB KB3TZD has that report.
13 New York area property owners have been put on notice by the Federal Communications Commission, which is charging them with permitting individuals to engage in illegal radio broadcasts. The properties were identified by the FCC as being in Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Spring Valley, which is north of New York City. The FCC also sent notices to landowners in Newark and Irvington, New Jersey, to the city's immediate west. The enforcement action taken on July 11th was done under the Pirate Act, which strengthens the agency's powers of sanction and sets higher penalties for violations. An FCC press release said that if the property owners continue to permit illegal radio activity, they could face fines of as much as $2.4 million. The acronym stands for Preventing Illegal Radio Abuse Through Enforcement Act, which took effect in April of 2021. This is Cell MB, KB3TZD.
Hams in western Pennsylvania are mourning the death of a key member of the emergency communications system who was also a friend and mentor. We have details about his life and contributions from Travis Lisk, N3ILS.
A devastating tornado charted the course of the amateur radio career of John Franklin Cole, N3TN, who is known to his friends as Frank. The tornado swept through Beaver County, Pennsylvania in 1985, 3 years after Frank became licensed. That same tornado swept Frank's radio future in the direction of community service, and he devoted himself to helping get the word out in emergencies. Frank became a silent key on Wednesday, the 10th of July. Throughout his years on the air, Frank served as the ARES emergency coordinator for Beaver County and was active as a RACES officer. He belonged to the Beaver Valley Amateur Radio Association and the AAA Amateur Radio Association, Inc. His longtime friend Eddie, KB3YRU, said that his deep, resonating voice could be heard often on many nets throughout the region. A final radio call for Frank was held at the start of the Western Pennsylvania phone traffic net on Friday, the 12th of July. Eddie told Newsline, quote, "Frank always had a story to tell, and now we will carry his stories on as we share them with others," end quote. Frank was 77. This is Travis Lisk, N3ILS.
A new adventure will begin on the 27th of July for the young radio operators who are part of the Dave Coulter Memorial Youth DX Adventure. The young amateurs will be using the special event call sign K3Y on the HF bands during the RSGB IOTA contest that weekend. For the second consecutive year, they'll be hosted by the K3LR Contest Group station in western Pennsylvania, one of the world's largest contest stations. The youth team will be Ian, KI8NA, and Lily, W8LIL. They'll be accompanied by youth mentors Katie, KE8LQR, and Grace, KE8RJU. A press release from the Youth DX Adventure organization said there were housing issues this year for the team's planned international trip. For details, visit youthdxa.org. Although new ham license conditions have been in effect in Great Britain since February, some of the regulators' changes are still baffling to many amateurs. Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, has a report about a new video designed to make things clearer.
5 months ago, Ofcom put new license conditions in place for radio amateurs in the UK, affecting a range of factors including call signs and power limits. Hams who are still uncertain about the impact of these changes can get a fuller explanation by watching a new video summary released by the Radio Society of Great Britain. Available on both the website and the YouTube channel of the RSGB, the video looks at changes for foundation licensees, including the ability to operate their stations remotely via the internet and the privilege granted to unlicensed persons to operate under supervision of a license holder. The 3-minute video also explores the next changes Ofcom has planned. Follow the links in this week's AR Newsline script to see the video. This is Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Support Your Parks weekend arrives on the 20th and 21st of July, and the bands are likely to be busy with activators and chasers. This is one of POTU's 5 official events conducted throughout the year. The next Support Your Parks weekend will be October 19th and 20th. Participants in Support Your Parks weekend events are eligible for downloadable certificates. We amateurs aren't the only people who sometimes scratch our heads over the bizarre behavior of the ionosphere. Even the experts at NASA have their moments of doubt. Ken Peterson, KC0DGY, tells us why.
The images of 2 oddly shaped ionospheric plasma bubbles have been captured by a NASA spectrograph project, and scientists are saying they may be tied to disruptions in radio communications. They're hoping for a better understanding of these electrically charged shapes and of why they occur in their search for clues into how to make radio communications more resilient during disturbances such as major solar storms. The images of these rarely seen shapes were captured by a NASA mission known as Global Scale Observations of the Limb and Disk, known by the acronym GOLD. GOLD is a 2-channel spectrograph launched 6 years ago with a mission to capture images of ionospheric weather. NASA scientists believe that the storm activity in the ionosphere created the oddly shaped plasma bubbles they saw. GOLD has captured them previously, but only during extreme space or terrestrial disturbances. They are shaped like the letter C, or its reverse, and sometimes like the letter X. They typically form near the magnetic equator of our planet. Normally, plasma bubbles are long and straight, leading scientists to believe these odd shapes are the result of forces such as terrestrial winds. This is Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Time for you to identify your station. We are the Amateur Radio Newsline, heard on bulletin stations around the world, including the K7ECI repeater of the Elmore County Amateur Radio Club in Mountain Home, Idaho, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. local time. radio lecturer and educator Dan Romanchik, KB6NU, came to New York City to help those in the hacker and STEAM community blaze a trail into amateur radio. By the time he had finished teaching his one-day course, Ham Radio for Hackers, on July 13th, 25 hackers had passed the technician test. The Hackers on Planet Earth, or HOPE conference, turned out to be a right place for nurturing amateurs along this non-traditional path to radio. Ed, N2XDD, and Nicole, AD2IM, who were part of the volunteer examiner team, told Newsline that the new licensees included a 9-year-old girl. They said they shared Dan's hope that the worlds of hackers and hams will continue to merge successfully. CW Ops in New Zealand are getting ready for a repeat performance of a successful public demonstration held last year. Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, tells us what they've got planned.
Based on the successful demonstration of a CW radio station last year at the Museum of Transport and Technology in Western Springs, members of the Franklin Amateur Radio Club and the NZNet are planning to do it again. When the visitors get on the air on the 18th of August, under the supervision of licensed hams, the message they will send will be a simple one, their own name, which they will send using a Morse key. As the signal goes out on 40 meters, Neil ZL1NZ and Paul ZL1AJY will be listening and will respond by sending the person's name back to them. Peter Henderson, ZL1PX, president of the Franklin Amateur Radio Club, told Newsline that the popular event grew out of a request from the museum itself after staffers noticed that the most popular exhibit in the Telecom Exhibition Centre was the Morse code key and buzzer. The museum had told Peter last year that many families stopped to try out and to practice sending messages. That's what inspired the idea of a live on-the-air event. Peter reported about the last year's event in the NZNet newsletter of the New Zealand CW Net, saying, quote, "I can't think of a nicer way to spend a Sunday," end quote. With luck, this year's event will be a repeat of another nice Sunday. Meanwhile, he said, a much larger version of the event is in the planning stages for October at a steam train attraction. This is Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
A de-expedition team is getting ready to operate from Canada's St. Paul Island, and it might be the last visit for a while, according to Dave Parks, WB8ODF.
A windswept, environmentally sensitive treeless island in Canada is about to become home to a team of 10 de-expeditioners. They'll be getting on the air on the 26th of August and remain until the 5th of September. This is the St. Paul Island CY9C de-expedition, which has been granted access to the island by the Canadian Department of Fisheries and Oceans for this short window of time. The island, which is off the coast of Nova Scotia in the Cabot Strait, has designations in 3 award schemes: POTA as CA0122, Lighthouse STB002, and IOTA NA094. This is a return trip for many on the team who will be focusing on CW, but also operating SSB, FT8, and RTTY. There'll also be satellite and moonbound operations. The hams received a grant from the Northern California DX Foundation to help sponsor this DXpedition, which is still raising funds. According to the team, this is the most expensive CY9 DXpedition to date. The team writes on its webpage, quote, "This could well be the last CY9 St. Paul Island operation for many years to come," end quote. For details on the DXpedition, visit QRZ.com. This is Dave Parks, WB8ODF.
In the world of DX, listen for Haru JA1XGI, operating as JA1XGI/6 from Minami Daito Island, IOTA number AS047, from the 21st through to the 23rd of July, using CW and FT8 on 40, 30, 20, 15, and 10 meters. He'll also be operating via the Green Cube satellite. QSOs will be uploaded to Club Log. Listen for special event station CR6B, which which will conclude operation on the 21st of July, marking the 42nd International Motorcycle Rally in Faro, Portugal. Listen on 160 through 6 meters for CW, SSB, and the digital modes. QSL via CT1 EHX. Inyo IW1RBI is using the call sign IS0/IW1RBI from Arbus, Sardinia, IOTA number EU024 until the 25th of July. Inyo is operating holiday style and can be heard mainly using SSB on 80 through 6 meters, QSL via his home call. A team of 5 operators plans to be on the air as MM0UKI from the uninhabited group of Flannan Islands, IOTA number EU118, starting on 1 August. If weather permits, they'll be returning around the 4th of August. They'll be on 40 through 6 meters, operating CW and SSB with 3 stations. Operators are Nobby, G0BJG, John, G4IRN, Paul, G4PVM, Mike, GM5AUG, and Jamie, M0SDV. See QRZ.com for QSL details. Our final story celebrates the triumph of landing astronauts on the moon. These hams mark the occasion by landing images on the moon, as we hear from Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Every year since 2019, the 50-year anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, the EME SSTV moon landing QSO party has celebrated the achievement by transmitting and bouncing images off the surface of the moon. Doing EME on slow-scan TV poses challenges. Radio operators need a strong signal and are always battling fast fading on the EME path, which results in missing pixels on the moon-bounced image. Jan, PA3FXB, who was part of Team PI9CAM, told amateur radio Newsline, "That's part of the fun." This year's PI9CAM moon bounce party was held Saturday the 13th of July using a 25-centimetre dish at the C.A. Muller Radio Astronomy Station in the Netherlands. The date was chosen instead of the actual July 21 anniversary because the moon's position was more advantageous for EME contacts. Moon-related images that were sent by the station included a portrait of the Apollo 11 crew, their launch, and the lunar rover. Perhaps the most special image of all was that of a man who made it to the moon via radio long before Apollo 11, Alan Katz, K2UYH. Al was the founding father of Moonbounce and the longtime publisher of the monthly EME newsletter. He became a silent key on June 20, age 81. Jan told Newsline, "He will be deeply missed." The transmission of the tribute to the moon mission and Al were a success. Jan said the images were received by the 5-metre dish of I0NAA. This is Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Don't forget the Amateur Radio Newsline Haiku Challenge. If you're not too busy tuning your antennas or chasing the latest expedition, pick up a pencil and share your experience by sending an original haiku to us here at Newsline. Use the entry form on our website, arnewsline.org, and please follow the rules for writing your 3-line haiku. We can't accept any entries that aren't written in traditional haiku form. Share with fellow listeners the poetry that's inspired by your ham radio experience. With thanks to Amateur News Daily, AMSAT, blog of Dan Romanchik, KB6NU, CQ Magazine, David Behar, K7DB, DX World, Ed Wilson, N2XDD, Eddie Masherich, KB3YRU, 425DX News, FCC, Franklin Amateur Radio Club, Jan, PA3FXB, Jim Storms, AB8YK, Maine Attorney General, Nicole Adams, 82IM, QRZ.com, Radio Society of Great Britain, shortwaveradio.de, and you, our listeners. That's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline. We remind our listeners that Amateur Radio Newsline is an all-volunteer, non-profit organization that incurs expenses for its continued operation. If you wish to support us, please visit our website at arnewsline.org, and know we appreciate you all. We also remind listeners, if you like our newscast, leave us a 5-star rating wherever you subscribe to us. For now, with Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team worldwide, I'm Jim Dameron, NATMW in Charleston, West Virginia, saying 73. As always, thank you for listening. And
This concludes our Monday evening transmission of Amateur Radio Newsline. Net to start in about 10 minutes. This has been W8VPV, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club.
W8VPV. Repeater TL110.9. W8VPV. Repeater
calling all amateur radio operators. Welcome to the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club Monday Night VHF UHF Net. My name is Frank. My call is W8EZT, but for the purposes of this net, we'll be using the club call Whiskey 8 Victor Papa Victor.
W8VPV. Repeater.
This is an open, directed net. All amateur radio operators are invited and encouraged to check in. You do not have to be a club member. All traffic will go through net control, and since emergency traffic may break in at any time, please leave a brief pause between transmissions. The purpose of this net is to bring together all amateur radio operators for the exchanging of amateur-related ideas and information, to enhance net operating practices, and to keep our members up to date about local club happenings. This net meets here every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m., preceded by Amateur Radio Newsline at 8:01. We'll start with some quick announcements, then ask for check-ins for any officer or member who has an announcement of general interest for the club. After that, we'll take check-ins, 5 at a time, call sign only. Once I get 5, I'll go back you and work you from the top down. Once I'm out of those, we'll take 5 more, and we'll repeat that process until we're done. If you're a regular member, I'll probably recognize you by call sign. I should say if you're a regular participant, I'll probably recognize you by call sign. If not, please give your call repeated phonetically, followed by your name and location. When all check-ins have been worked, I'll repeat the announcements and close the net. We also operate an HF plus 6 band exploration net starting at 9:30 p.m. after this net. The approximate frequencies are posted on our webpage. However, this evening will be on 80 meters. I'll be net control, and it'll be at approximately 3.827 megahertz. The exact frequency will depend on activity and QRM. Please join us if you have the privileges and the equipment. All right, announcements coming up this Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. It's the 4th Wednesday of the month. Will be a Zoom Board of Governance meeting. We need your input. All club members are encouraged to join us. Think of this as the business meeting. We need your guidance. We'll be doing finalized planning for the club picnic, probably what the main course will be, and work on details of who's doing what. So please join us there. We appreciate your input. If you have something that could help, we could always use it. We'll also be starting with clubhouse planning. As most of you are now aware, we have been gifted from the city the use of a city-owned 2 rooms in an upper story of a building for use as a station and even a workshop. We need to put together, there's lots of work we have to do. We need to do everything from decide on who's going to buy toilet paper, to what rigs and antennas we have, to how we keep the upstairs cool in the summer and warm in the winter, to clubhouse access rules, to refrigerator rules, to test bench capabilities, all the details that's going to make this fun and a success. We need your help. If you can show up and just give us some input, we sure would appreciate it. If you'd like to join a committee of 3 to 5 other members to pretty much spearhead and work all these details out and come up with a game plan, we sure would like it. Rarely do clubs have clubhouses, and we're very lucky to have been gifted one here. That's Zoom meeting, 7:30 p.m. There's a link on the club calendar, Wednesday, July 24th. Sure hope to see you there. We'll be having a Parks on the Air activation Saturday, July 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Church in the Valley. That's at 2241 Everett Road, Peninsula. This is in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We'll be providing refreshments. Members, guests, and families are invited. Join us for the day, see how we set up antennas, learn about operating HF, overcome that mic fright if you're a licensed ham, and enjoy the national park and nearby attractions. If you have any questions, contact Jim, W83JAT, or drop an email at W83JAT@AOL.com. Newsletter articles are also due on Saturday, July 27th. If you have something to say, please submit it. If you have a request for a particular topic, send a note to the newsletter editor, and we'll see if we can't find an article for you. Anthony's been working on a CFARC repeater guide, how to access our repeaters and how to set up your radio. It's on the front page of our web page. Please check it out, and if you have a radio that you know how to operate and you'd like to add a chapter for your radio, we sure would appreciate it. We'd like to basically cover most of the common radios in there. Right, the big event, Wednesday, August 14th, starting around 4 p.m. at Waterworks Park. We'll be meeting at the Shady Bend shelter area for the club's annual picnic. We could use a coordinator, that is somebody who makes sure that everything arrives and shows up. It's more organization than actual doing stuff. But we sure could use one of those. Please let us know if you can at the governance meeting. The club will be providing water, soft drinks, corn, and the main course. Probably burgers or dogs. Excuse me. Attendees are requested to bring some kind of side dish, pasta, beans, whatever. There is a sign-up sheet on the club webpage. Please go to it, sign up, and let us know if you'll be attending so we can get the right amount of food. Should be a good time, and we'll probably do something radio-wise out there. Just a reminder, the Columbus Hamfest is coming up August 3rd. It's on the south side of 270. It's about 2.5 hours from here. A long drive, but very different equipment than you would normally see up here. And finally, I have a question for everybody tonight. What is the first piece of ham gear that you've owned, and do you still have it? And also, if you still have it, do you still use it? For new hams, it may be the gear you're on tonight. For old hams, I'd be very curious. All right, that's everything I've got as far as announcements. Do we have any announcements from officers or members of general interest to the club? Go ahead now.
W8VPV with an announcement.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I realized today that today is the fourth Monday of July, and next Monday will still be July, so that's a fifth Monday. So since I'll probably be the net control operator, I'm proposing for the band exploration net that we do 12 meters and do it on 24.972 megahertz. 24.972 megahertz. That's a frequency that Anthony and I came up with because 24.987 is too close to the edge of the band, and 24.927 is not in the single sideband part of the phone part of the band. So 24.972 megahertz. Back to the net. This is my first piece of equipment is a Heathkit. Let's see what HW8. Heathkit HW8, and I haven't used it for quite a while, but I still have it. And recently I bought another one, so I have two of those HW8. So back to the net. This is W8VPV.
All right, very good, John. I've got that written down here. I'll repeat the announcement at the end of the net when I wrap things up. And thanks for the information about that piece of equipment. HW8 is part of the hot water series, if I remember. I think my dad had some. Very good. Do we have any other officers or members with announcements of general interest? Right, nothing heard. We'll start taking check-ins 5 at a time. Go ahead, please, with your call sign.
AD8YAX.
All right, Forrest, I got you. I'll get back to you. There's somebody else also underneath you. Go ahead to the other station.
Alpha Charlie 8 X-Ray Oscar.
All right, Vince, I got you. Next.
Kilo 8 Zulu Tango.
Anthony, I've got you. Next.
KBU.
Got you in there, Larry. One more.
KA8WTK.
And I got you in there, Bill. Very good. Back to the top. Force, do you have anything for us tonight? Okay, I've got you down as in and out. Very good, Force. Thank you very much. Next up, Vince, AC8XO, and I probably forgot to mention the newsletter. I apologize.
Well, Frank, you mentioned something about the newsletter. I caught it like at the tail end because I just turned the radio on. Newsletter, articles coming up soon, end of the month, all that stuff. You have until Wednesday of the end of July. I understand something about first piece of equipment or whatever. First piece of equipment is a ham IT7300, sort of, because this, whatever this Kenwood THF6 was the actual first piece of equipment I got on the air with. Other than that, I don't have a whole heck of a lot, Frank. It's good for you to run the net, and this is Vince AC8XO back to net.
All right, very good, Vince. Appreciate that. I'll see if I can't get something. Of course, we're doing the park activation on the same day as the newsletter articles are due, so that may be a day or two late, but we'll get you an article and some pictures for that once I figure out how to do all of that stuff. And let's see, also as far as equipment, long before I was a ham, my father bought me a Hammerland HQ110. I was probably 17 at the time. It needed alignment and some work, and he did that and used that to teach me a little bit about how superheterodynes and tubes worked. Knew a little bit about tubes, but how superheterodynes work. I had that for many years, and I sold it about 20 years ago, figuring I'd never be a ham. Well, maybe 25 years ago, and 18 years ago I did become a ham and wish I had it back, but it is what it is. So that was my piece of gear. I do not have it anymore. All right, next up, Anthony, K8ZT, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My first item was a Kenwood TR2500. That was an HT, and I spent my first couple of meetings at Seaport looking at everyone's belt to see what radio they were carrying around, and I saw more 2500s than anything else. So that was the first radio I got on 2 meters and 440. Just 2 meters, not 440 on that. The first radio I got for HF was my Tentec Argonaut 515. I still have that, and I still use it. The Kenwood's long gone. By the way, as we're reminiscing about old radios, if you want to see some of these radios, go to RigPix. RigPix.com. And you can look up most of the radios we're talking about tonight. That's all I have. This is KCT.
Very good, Anthony. I do remember those 2500s. My dad had one at one time. Very dependable. Next up, Larry, K8PU. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, everybody on the net here. Yeah, I can go back a little bit, too. Back in 1975, come back from Detroit from upgrading, which you had to do then to tech, and worked with Bob Ingalls out at Aerospace, and Bob sold me a communicator 4 with a ETL, 6-meter AM rig for $45, and I used it to check into the W8VPV net, AM net at that time for a while, until getting upgraded to other things. But I still have it sitting up here on the shelf, and since I got it from Bob, I'll never sell it. It means more to me in a lot of other ways. But I haven't had it on for about 20 years.
Wow, very good, Larry. Was that back on, I think it was 53.52 megahertz was the club frequency at the time?
Let me see. I have to look at my logbook and see. I don't remember exactly. I'm not sure. I'll just have to look, Brian.
No problem. That seems to ring a bell, but I could be wrong there. Very good. Let's see here. Next up, Bill, KA8WTK. Go ahead.
W8VPV and the rest of the net. Good evening, Frank and everybody. Not much going on here. My first rig was a National NCX3. While I don't still have that particular one, I did sell it after a few years. I had to buy another one, so there's one sitting over here on the shelf, and it does need a little work, but I do still have an NCX3. So there you go. That's that. W8VPV, KA8WTK.
All right, very good, Bill. All right, I'm at the bottom of the page, looking for another 5 check-ins, call signs only. Go ahead. Heard somebody in there with a lot of noise on you. Try it again. Sorry, you're in and out of the repeater right now. Might try a different location, maybe higher in the air, higher power, different antenna, but cannot pull you out of the noise. We have another check-in, please.
KHMS.
All right, got you, Steve. Next.
KE8TQR.
TQR, got you. Next.
KF8BFT, try again.
There we go. That time I think I got you. Go ahead with the call sign again.
KF8BFT, Bill.
Okay, was that B as in boy, Frank, T as in Thomas?
Kilo, Foxtrot, 8, Bravo, Foxtrot, Tango.
Bravo, Foxtrot, Tango. And the name was Bill, I think?
Correct.
Okay, stand by. Next.
P8KDI.
All right, got you, Ron. Next. We'll go ahead and work these 4, and then I'll probably take them one at a time. Steve, K8HMS, go ahead.
Can you copy me, Frank? You couldn't hear me on 2 meters.
Coming through loud and clear. Go ahead. We got you.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the 440 side. Can't believe 2 didn't get through. Anyway, not much going on. Just say good evening to everybody. And thanks for running the net, Frank. And just waiting for some rain. I'm getting tired of water and everything. And yeah, my first rig was a World Radio Laboratories WRL Globe Chief. That was a great little 75-watt crystal control transmitter, and Hallicrafter's S38D. So it was a nice setup. I wish I still had it. I don't even know what happened to it, but that was back in 1957. So anyhow, like you say, wish I still had the darn stuff. I guess that's about it. Back to you. Oh yeah, and I had other little rigs on and off since then. So back to you, KHMS.
All right, very good, Steve. Yeah, that's an old rig. I remember seeing those. Nothing like the smell of hot tubes and warm capacitors and bakelite. Be a good thing. KE8TQR, Keith, go ahead, sir.
Whiskey 8 Victor Papa Victor. This is KE8TQR. Frank, I'm coming in on the 444. How's my transmission?
Little bit of hiss on it, but fully readable. You're doing good.
All right, first time I tried this side, so I figured I'd see what it did. Anyway, yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Frank. Thanks for taking my check-in. And my first ham radio was an HT. That's an FT60, which is still working. It is upstairs sitting next to my easy chair. I use it to listen more than anything else. 2 meters, I don't hit too many repeaters with that, but the 70 centimeter, I hit the one repeater right here in Uniontown. There's no problem. My first HF is a Kenwood TS690S. It is sitting here in the shack. It's not on right at the moment because I'm using the ICOM 7100. But those are mine, and I still have them. They all work just fine. As for anything else, today I finally finished up the finishing touches on the 10-element Yagi, which is sitting in my backyard on sawhorses right at the moment. So when we do tilt the tower down, hopefully coming up soon, it'll be ready to go on. And let me tell you, it takes up a lot of room in the backyard on the sawhorses, so I know it's going to take up a lot of space in the sky. So it'll be great. Anyway, hope everyone had a good day, a great night. Wonderful week coming up, and hope to hear everyone next week. With that, I'll send it back to you, Frank. This is KE8DQR saying 73, and God bless.
Very good, Keith. And yeah, you're coming through real good on the 440 side. You know, we love to put stories about antenna projects in the newsletter. May want to take a couple of pictures of the antenna while it's on the ground, and process of lowering the tower, attaching it, putting it back up, and then maybe a little bit of storyline to go with it. It provide motivation for some of our newer members, and I don't know how many towers I've put up and antennas I've put up over the years, but they're always fun to watch and see how another ham does it. So by all means, use that as the basis for a newsletter. We'd love to see it. All right, let's see here. Next up, KF8BFT. Bill, I'm just going to guess based on the call sign that the piece of equipment you have now is your first piece of ham gear, but go ahead.
You got that right. Yeah, this is KF8BFT. My first official ham radio was the Anytone, which is what I'm talking on right now, the 7.8 UV dual band. It was the first one I got because it was affordable, and it was just a small antenna I had on it, and now I got a common on it. And as you mentioned there about tower projects, I got quite a big one going on over here. I just added a 26-foot dipole rotatable and a rotary on my tower, trying to get that hooked up tonight. My tower was on the ground, but I have a system to pull it up. Break. Also, in just for heads up, I acquired a hoist scale that goes up to 2,000 pounds. If anyone's concerned about their lifting capacity on their tower at the angles when they're coming up, I have that. You're welcome to borrow it when you're trying to figure out what you need for all your hardware on your tower. I can definitely loan that out to the net.
Awesome, that's fantastic. And yeah, that's one advantage of being in a ham club. Some of the members have equipment and resources that are there for newer members. I do have a gin pole and cable system with all the pulleys to help put up a tower if you're building one section at a time and then raising the beam on top. I've used it before in a number of cases, and it's available if anybody needs to borrow it, and I'll even show you how to use it. So very good, Bill. Well, good hearing you in there, and good luck on that tower, and likewise take pictures. These make great stories. That's what club newsletters are all about. All right, KE8KVI, Ron, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Frank. Everybody out there in radio land. Not much to report. It's actually been a fairly boring day. I've been mostly doing cleaning and such, which is, of course, boring by its very nature. As far as my first piece of gear, I have a Baofeng UV5R, and that's what I'm talking on right now, and it's served me in good stead since, way back in the early days of 2018.
Yeah, way back then. Very good, Ron. Good hearing you in there, and, well, sometimes boring is good. After too many exciting days, you look forward to one. So have a good one, and we'll catch you probably later this week sometime. All right, I'm at the bottom of my list now. Let's see, we'll take check-ins one at a time. Go ahead, looking for any check-ins for the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club Monday Night Net. And it's not really a trivia question, but the question of the night is, what was the first piece of ham radio equipment that you had or have? Do you still have it? And by any chance, do you still use it? So looking for check-ins, W8VPV.
WBFCXO.
And go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, Frank, and everybody on net. Mike, WBFCXO. We went to the North Fest yesterday over in Elyria at the college, and you have a good copy. I mean, I hit the repeater, okay?
100% into it, yes.
Okay, great. It's a good repeater. Anyways, the attendance was a little lacking at the show. There was more tables without sellers than there were with sellers, and the buyer attendance, I think, might have been down a little bit, but I wasn't sure. I was selling with W8UAB as usual, and we didn't do too bad. And then about 10:30, we had a fire alarm. And, when we used to have fire alarms at work, I used to just, if I could ignore it, I'd ignore it, because it was somebody burning toast in a break room or something usually. And they finally kicked us out, and we had to go outside and wait. I was sitting there talking to Dave, and I says, it's 10:30. We'll be lucky to get back in by 11 o'clock before they clear this place. The sellers will stay because they got stuff inside, but the buyers are going to leave because there's nothing to do. We might as well just pack up and leave once we get inside. And he says, well, I'm gonna have a fire sale. When we get back inside, I'm going to sell everything at reduced prices and donate the money to the club. So he did that and raised a little over $700 for the club, pretty much offsetting the losses they incurred due to poor attendance. So that was pretty cool. We had a lot of fun doing that. It was a fun time. That's about all we got. I have one question. I'm curious if anybody on net is playing around with Meshtastic. It seems to be the rage off and on with the YouTube hams. Meshtastic. And I was just wondering if anybody's heard about it or is playing with it. That's all I got, WBFCXO.
Very good, Mike. I regularly get together with a group of retirees, many in technical areas and from the University of Akron, and a lot of them are have little Meshtastic units, and they're all chattering about it. I have not done a whole lot to follow up on it, but I can put you in touch with some people that know a fair amount about it if you want. As far as Lorraine, I did want to go Saturday. I had I discovered a couple of years ago I'm allergic to shrimp, and I didn't have any shrimp, but a friend and I and his wife ordered out at a seafood place, and we had deep-fried hush puppies and clam strips and some smelts, and of whatever the protein is in shrimp that I'm allergic to, apparently gets in the oil, because man, oh man, I got home and I was sick all night from basically seafood or shrimp sensitivity. So I was not going anywhere Saturday. The person I did go, Bruce, left apparently also commenting on the low attendance. I will add, let me pause for time. I will add there were three things going on last Saturday. There was a Northeast Ohio Amateur Radio Roundup out in Lake Milton. There was an Ashtabula, I believe, Hamfest going on, their second one or third one up along the lake. And so NORS, even though they're Central Ohio, were competing with two other events there, and that might have affected their attendance. But heck, that was a great response that Dave did, because that's one of those smaller clubs that you just want to see keep going on. So pass on my regards and my thank you. One last thing, Mike. Do you still have the first piece of ham radio gear by any chance that you had? Do you remember what it was, and do you still have it?
Yes and no, or maybe I should say no and yes. When I got my novice ticket, some folks in the club loaned me some equipment. I ran a Hammerlin HQ 129X on receive and a DX60 on transmit, and I operated primarily on 40 meter CW. And then within a year, I got my general ticket and bought a Heathkit SB301 and 401, built those, and I still have those. So it's a little more of an answer than what you want, but that's the rest of the story. WBNCXO.
Very good, Mike. Always good hearing you in there, and we'll probably catch you at a Hamfest coming up here. All right, looking for another check-in. This is W8VPV, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club Monday Night Net.
KF8AVD, in and out.
KF8AVD, was that Alpha Victor Delta? I got you as in and out, and I think there's somebody else underneath you. Other station, go ahead.
November 8th, Bravo Alpha Yankee, Ralph in Stowe.
All right, Ralph, go ahead. We're taking them one by one now.
This is NABAY. My first radio was and is still an HT. It's the Yaesu FT4X. It's really the only radio that I have. That's about it. This is NABAY, back to net.
Very good. Certainly a good HT. Most of mine are ICOMs. I decided to pick one at the time that was popular and just get multiple ones, ICT7H. Good, dependable. I know how to program it. I've got probably a half dozen with various batteries and various charge states, so I just grab one, put a hot battery in it, and I'm ready to go. So very good then, though that isn't my first radio. Looking for another check-in. This is W8VPV.
This is Kilo 8 Bravo India, Bill in Cuyahoga Falls.
And good evening, Bill. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening, Frank and the rest of the net. Doing pretty well, and it sounds like everyone else is having a pretty good day. And looking forward to a good week here when we give you a little rain off and on and use it. As far as first rig, the first rig I had would have been back in about 1965 or so. Just was handed down to my dad. It was a Helicrafters S38B 4-band receiver, which was also a 4-tube receiver, hot chassis, and I got shocked on my can a couple of times if I wasn't paying attention. If you touch the case, you were taking a chance. You always learn pretty quick to touch only by the knobs and brake. The first amateur radio that could transmit that I had was Heathkit HW16, and novices had just been given the rights to use VFOs back in about 1973-74. Don't remember the year. I got it in about 1974 from W8VPV over in Akron, and so I had the HW16 in the matching VFO, and I still have them. Not sure if they would power up. It's been a few years since I powered them on. It weighs so much. It's a lot of work to get it down off the shelf and plug it in, but it's still there. Anyways, have a great week. I look forward to seeing you down the road. Yeah, well, let's see. Forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, back to you, Frank. KPI.
All right, thanks, Bill. And yeah, the Helicrafter S38 was a very, very popular, fairly inexpensive radio, and I guess hot chassis, I guess that just depends on which way you have it plugged in. Sometimes you get it hot, sometimes not. Very good. Do we have any more check-ins? W8VPV here. All right, we'll run through the announcements, ask for one more check-ins, one more round, and then wrap it up and get out of here. Coming up this Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. via a Zoom meeting. We need your input. This is a Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club Board of Governance meeting. This is where the officers and trustees get together and try to make this club interesting and exciting. We need your input. What do you want to do? Do you like to do park activations? We got one of those coming up. Tell you about it in a minute. We'll be finalizing our picnic plans. If you want to help, if you have any ideas to make it interesting, by all means, we'd love to hear them. We'll be talking a lot about our clubhouse that we've been given, a gift from the city of Cuyahoga Falls. We want to put together a group of 3 to 6 CFARC members, maybe a couple officers, but certainly a couple of just regular members who will plan all things big and small for the clubhouse. This can be everything from who and when we buy toilet paper to what rigs and antennas we have, how we handle keeping the upstairs cool in the summer and hot in the winter, clubhouse access rules, refrigerator rules, remember those from work, test bench capabilities, whatever. This is going to be a long-term event, and we want the club members' input, so please let us know what you'd like there. Next up, we'll be having a Parks on the Air activation this Saturday, July 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Church in the Valley, 2241 Everett Road, Peninsula, Ohio, 44264. This is in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We'll have refreshments available. Members, guests, and families are invited. Please join us for the day. See how we set up antennas, learn about operating HF, and enjoy the national park and nearby attractions. If you have any questions, please call Jim or contact Jim, W8VPV at AOL.com. He's organizing it. Newsletter articles are also due July 27th. If you have something you want to write, contribute to the newsletter, we'd appreciate it, such as you're putting up a new antenna or a new tower or even something small. And if you want to hear about something, if you want a newsletter article about something, let us know. We'll see if we have somebody out there who can write about it. We've got a new front page on the website if you want to check it out. It's a repeater guide, basically how to set up your radio for the CFARC repeaters. If you have a particular radio that you'd like to add the information on, if you're familiar and comfortable with it, please contact Anthony and we'll include your narrative. Next up is the picnic, Wednesday, August 14th, starting at about 4 p.m. at Waterworks Park, at the Shady Bend Shelter. We're having our annual club picnic. The club will be providing soft drinks, water, corn, and the main course, and we ask that attendees bring some kind of a side dish, pasta, salad, beans, chips, whatever, maybe a dessert. There's sign up on the club website. You can sign up now if you go to it. We'll be asking you what the total number of food that you'll be wanting so we can get the right number. So feel free to sign up. We'd also like to get a coordinator, somebody who's not one of the officers who'd like to get more involved in the club. I'd like to get him involved, just showing him what's involved and behind the scenes on this and help coordinate it. All right, reminder, August 3rd is the Columbus Ham Fest. It's about 2.5 hours from here on the south side of Columbus, but very different set of equipment, very different things, and generally well worth the trip down, in my opinion. All right. And lastly, the question of the evening, and it's not really a trivia question. There's no right or wrong answer. What's the first piece of ham equipment you've owned, and do you still use it? Do you still have it? And finally, let's see here. Next Monday is a 5th Monday. John will be running the net. The band expiration net will be on 12 meters at 24.972 megahertz. So if you have the equipment and the privileges, we'd appreciate you being there. And of course, the band expiration net starting at 9:30, about
repeater timeout.
Will be on 80 meters, somewhere around 3.827 megahertz. I'll get on the repeater and make the announcement on the 2-meter side a couple of minutes before the net once I find a clear frequency. Those are all the announcements I have. Let me go back and see if we can find anybody else. This is W8VPV, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club, Monday night VHF UHF net. Do we have any more check-ins?
Time. Repeater out.
Oops, timed it out. Sorry about that. Do we have any more check-ins? gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up then. In preparing to close this net, I would like to thank all of you who took the time to join us and check in tonight. Without your participation, there would be no net. This has been Frank, W8ECT, and it's been my pleasure to host this evening's net. And by the way, if you would like to do the net control function, we'd love to have you on board. We have a script. We'll always have somebody to stand by to help if you need some assistance or guidance there. But if you're interested, by all means, reach out to one of the club officers or any of the club board of governance members. At this point, we'll close the net with 13 check-ins, myself included, and return the repeaters to normal and customary amateur radio use. This is Whiskey 8 Victor Papa Victor closing the net at 9:10 p.m. Local time. And keep in mind, we have a band exploration net on 80 meters, somewhere around 3.827 megahertz. At 9:30, exact frequency will be announced on this repeater just before then. This is W8VPV. We are clear.